Hello, I'm CJ Wellerman, and this is episode number 22 of Channel the Rage. Channel the Rage brings you interviews with actual Muslim victims of discrimination and the global war on terror, and in doing so, gives a voice to the voiceless. In this episode, I speak with Abdulghani Taybat, who is an activist, journalist, and an advocate for the rights of Uyghur Muslims in East Turkestan. He speaks to me about the Chinese government's campaign to ethnically cleanse the region of its Muslim population, a campaign that is happening in near total media silence. This episode is proudly brought to you by the Ananas Foundation. They're using cryptocurrency to counter Islamophobia. Every coin you buy goes towards their mission to combat ignorance and hate. So please support their effort by buying some tokens at their website www.anacoin.io. Also, please pick up a copy of the newly released book Q&A with an Islamophobe by Sadiq Bazawala. He debunks 200 of the most commonly deployed anti-Muslim tropes. It's available on Amazon, and you can also hear my chat with Sadiq in episode number 7. Also, we need your help. To help sustain and grow this podcast, to help give voice to the voiceless, please make a small contribution, even as little as $1 at www.patreon.com/channeltherage. That's www.patreon.com/channeltherage, or follow the link on our Twitter account @channeltherage. Thank you, and here now is my chat with Abdulghani. Well, thanks for joining me on the podcast, Abdulghani. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
That's good. No, I've wanted to speak about the Uyghur Muslims in East Turkestan for a long time, and I came across you on Twitter and Facebook. So you've given me an opportunity finally to speak about and to learn more about what's happening under Chinese rule and Chinese oppression. So I guess for the benefit of my listeners, can you explain to me who the Uyghur Muslims are?
First, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity, and I would like to say hello to listeners. Uyghur people actually located northwest region of China, but it was actually my country called East Turkistan. The Chinese invaded East Turkestan in 1949. After the Chinese invaded my country, they occupied and changed its name into Xinjiang, a Uyghur Autonomous Region of China. But before it was called East Turkestan. Uyghur is a Turkic-speaking people.
Right. Okay. Yeah. And so China's occupied Xinjiang since 1949, and is this an effort to colonize this region and to ethnically cleanse the Uyghur Muslims of their identity?
Yes, actually, look, the Chinese government invaded East Turkestan, China's Liberation Army, invaded East Turkestan in 1949, and then the Chinese declared 1955 that land changed the name into Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region of China. It means, for example, new land or new frontier. After occupation of the East Turkestan, the Chinese government systematically has committed genocide against the Uyghurs. For example, 1960, the East Turkestan located between China and the Soviet Union. At that time, China slandered the Uyghurs, links with the Soviet Union, and the 70, so-called the Cultural Revolution, and in 80 and 90, the Chinese the arrested, tortured, kidnapped the Uyghurs under the name of separatism and something like this. But the 11th September, it's a very good opportunity for the Chinese government to, the slender Uyghurs under the name of so-called terrorism.
Yes, that's what I gather. Particularly this current Chinese government under Xi Jinping are using the U.S. war on terror as an excuse to link the Uyghur Muslims with Al Qaeda, even. So speak to me a little bit about about that. Is there any basis for reality linking the Uyghur Muslims to terrorist organizations like Al Qaeda or anything like that?
Actually, this is a very interesting question. For example, before I will answer this question, look at in East Turkestan after 11th September. The Uyghur, we are not allowed to individually go to Hajj for the Muslim, and for example, we are not allowed to study Islamic books, And also, if some Uyghur who is under than 18 years old, he or she not allowed to go to mosque, and the students at the university not allowed to fast Ramadan, or I mean just go to mosque, and who are under than 45 years old, not allowed to grow a beard, you know. For that reason, some Uyghurs, to be honest, for example, because East Turkestan is located with Pakistan and Afghanistan, that region, you know it, for example.
Sure.
To be honest, some Uyghurs maybe went to there because their parents and their brothers and sisters, unlawfully tortured, killed by the Chinese government. That's why some Uyghurs went to there, like in Afghanistan or Syria. Because I don't have, but I only the YouTube and the Google. I read some information about the Uyghurs, how the Uyghurs fighters went to Syria or Afghanistan. I cannot deny, but some Uyghurs, because of China's oppression, some Uyghurs maybe join with them.
Certainly, and I mean, you spoke a little bit about the kind of systematic oppression by the Chinese government on the Uyghur Muslim population. I mean, we're talking about forced deconversions from Islam to atheism. I even read an article recently where Uyghur Muslims were forced to give up their Islamic faith and had to live with atheist Chinese families to move away from their religion.
Yes, you're absolutely right. Right now I'm talking about ethnic genocide. For example, in 1984, the Chinese government, forced the Uyghurs two-child policy for the Uyghurs. Before I will talk about the China, the religious issue, I am going to talk about the birth control policy in East Turkestan. In 1949, the Chinese government forced Uyghurs, you must have two child. If you have more than two, no matter the woman is 9 months pregnancy or 8 months, 7 months, the doctors just kill the baby. This is ethnic genocide for the Uyghurs, killing the Uyghur babies. For example, like in East Turkistan, like in the Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region of China. After 11 September, look, the Uyghur Muslim not allowed to study Islamic books and not allowed to go to study Islam like Saudi Arabia or Azhar, and for example, and Uyghur imams forced to dance, and Uyghur imams just forced to propagate the communist ideology in East Turkestan. So and that's not enough. The Chinese government, used its power in Egypt and in Pakistan or Saudi Arabia, just to collaborate with that government, and then send the Uyghur students to East Turkestan. Whenever the Uyghur students, they have legal visa, legal passport from the Chinese government, the Chinese government takes them back to East Turkestan and then puts them in jail. The recent months, the Chinese government, like for example, the so-called, like the hospitality, the so-called national union, and the government send Chinese into Uyghurs' family, sleep with them, eat with them.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen video footage of Chinese Uyghur Muslim families having to stand in front of the Chinese flag and swear allegiance to China and to denounce their Islamic faith. I mean, this is completely and wholly, stripping these people of their ethnic and religious identity, which is a form of ethnic cleansing.
Yes, exactly. You are right. Absolutely right. Today, I don't know you read or not. Just 1 month ago, Radio Free Asia published a news that you said more than 1 million Uyghurs in the concentration camp in East Turkestan right now. Look, 1 million people, the concentration camp. Today, people talking like Nazi camps and people talking about Israel, something like this. But whenever it came to East Turkestan, why Muslims keep so silent? And where is Amnesty International? Where is Human Rights Watch?
Yeah, I mean, 1 million are in a concentration prison labor camp. I mean, this is, akin to North Korea.
Yes, exactly. That's true. Totally true. For example, look, I will say to you, right now, more than 10 years, I don't have any contact with my family in East Turkestan. Even internet, even telephone, even email. We have internet, we have email, we have softwares, smart apps in East Turkestan. Many people can contact with their family, before 2016. But I didn't contact with my family from 2009 until now.
Wow. So the last time you spoke with your family was 2009?
2009.
And do you know their whereabouts at all? Do you know their
I don't know.
safety?
I don't know. I don't know.
You have no idea about their safety or their well-being.
I have a sister. She lives Washington D.C. and she visited East Turkistan 2014. She said to me, "My family well okay, but government always forces them straight into them and say to me, yeah, you must." Like I say to my sister, "Please, this is your life. This is my life." Because the Chinese kill, kidnap, torture, the ethnic genocide of Uyghurs. I don't want to keep a silence. I want to speak out. I don't know what happened to them.
Yeah, that's incredible. And what would happen if you tried to visit your family?
I cannot. That's impossible.
Impossible.
That's impossible.
What, you'd be denied access at the airport?
Denied also
Door
access.
entry?
Maybe take me in jail. Maybe life in sentence, for example.
Right. And what do you how do you explain the international community's silence on the Uyghur Muslims? Is it because countries have such large trade with China that they fear by speaking out speaking out on behalf of the Uyghur Muslims that they'll upset China, they'll upset their commerce and trade?
I think, to be honest, for example, at least the European countries, United States, Canada, for example, try is a little bit best, like you're talking about the human rights issue about Uyghur people in East Turkestan. Every year they are publishing reports of what happened in East Turkestan. And also they have a good business partnership with China. That's why, not working effectively. I mean, like if I'm talking about the Muslim countries, Turkey or Saudi Arabia, Iran or Egypt, they have very good business partnership with China, number one, and number two, they have the internal problem in their own countries. And if you look at like a Muslim countries, you always think, wow, China is our best friend, and because we have the enemy like Russia or Europe, so we must be depend on side of the Chinese government and keep silent what happened to them, because they don't want to talk about the Uyghurs because of China's money.
Yeah,
China's business and Uber project, that for example, One Belt, One Road, and also Silk Road, like so many reasons.
yeah.
Actually, I wrote the articles, I wrote emails to Muslim scholars like Yasser Qadi, like Yusuf al-Qaradawi. I wrote them, please don't keep silent. They are Muslim. Today, if you are quiet, you don't talk nothing else. And the East Turkestan will be settled in Andalusia, that Spain, for example. And there's a Muslim land, but nobody answered to me.
Yeah, I mean, money buys complicity, and it also buys silence. I mean, Pakistan. I can't imagine Pakistan standing up to China, given now that Pakistan is so heavily invested in Chinese trade, and China, or vice versa, China has invested so much of its foreign policy dollars into the Pakistan economy. So yeah, I mean, it seems like the Uyghur Muslims don't have a friend in the world right now.
Yes, you are absolutely right. I mean, the Pakistani people must be clever. I think they are right now. They didn't learn any lesson from the Uyghur people. For example, before the Chinese occupied of East Turkestan, at that time Chinese merchants come to East Turkestan. I will give one example. Look, before the Manchuria, you know what Manchu, right? For the Manchu dynasty. The Manchu dynasty, Manchurian people ruled China, not Han Chinese. At that time, many Chinese, they are afraid of their life and come to East Turkestan for living. At that time, our fathers gave them a shelter. 1911, the Chinese nationals took power, and the civil war. After that, the Chinese communists took power. From 1949 until now, the Han Chinese ruling in China. I mean, before 1949, we had in East Turkestan only 3-4% Chinese. At that time, they came to East Turkestan, well, we want to live here, do business, this one, that one, blah, blah. So many, lie. And step for step, they collaborated Russia, and then they occupied our country. Today, if the Pakistani people said, oh, China, everything is good, you want to do business with China, China is our best friend, something like this, actually they didn't learn any lesson from the Uyghur people. Today, if, for example, like Pakistan, Afghanistan, or like some Muslim countries like Saudi Arabia or Turkey, for example, if they don't help the Uyghur people, their country, maybe tomorrow, maybe next day, I don't know, maybe second East Turkestan, will be China's colony. I'm sure about it.
Yeah, I mean, what interest does China have in Xinjiang? Is it an area rich in energy?
Yes, actually, in East Turkistan is we have oil that's more than Saudi Arabia, and we have Golden Mountain, like uranium, petrol, natural resources. Our country is very, very rich. That's why the Chinese occupied my country, not let us go.
Yeah, I mean, and Beijing has invested a lot of money in big energy projects, in the Xinjiang region. But are these jobs which come from these big projects going to Uyghur Muslims, or are they going to Chinese Han?
Before I'll answer your question, for example, the Chinese didn't invest any money to East Turkestan. The Chinese has stolen money from East Turkestan 1949 until now.
Right.
That money is always, I mean, like used for the Chinese people, inland of China, not people of East Turkestan. That money is just to use them to slaughter Muslims in Myanmar, in Burma, for example. That money is before every day the Chinese stole our money, sell our money, and that money is used slaughtering and killing people in East Turkestan and all Muslims in Myanmar.
Yeah.
And also, to be honest, that China's a huge project. It doesn't help any benefit. We don't get any benefit from the Chinese government, because every year millions of Han Chinese, the Chinese government bring millions of Han Chinese to East Turkestan.
Right.
That job work every single the works for the Chinese people, not local people, the Uyghurs, Kazakh, Kyrgyz, Uzbek, Tatar people.
Right. And so do the Uyghur Muslims, do they want their independence? Obviously, it's a stupid question. Do they want independence, or do they want to be occupied by someone? So let me rephrase that question. Do the independence movement, how strong is it?
Yes, I will say to you, last June, one of journalists asked me, for example, Uyghurs are separatists. To be honest, the Uyghurs, we had country called East Turkestan. Only Chinese communists occupied our country in 1949. We want our country to get back from the Chinese invasion. For example, today the Muslims, like there's many Muslims countries today, like recognize Palestine as like a country. For example, East Turkestan, it was a country. It belonged to like it's their local people, indigenous people, for example. And to be honest, we have nothing. We do our best. Only paper and a pen. That's what we have.
Right. I mean,
and we have hope.
I believe the last riot in the province was in 2009. Are there periodic clashes where the Uyghur Muslims just can't take this kind of oppression anymore, and there's an outcry of violence out of frustration? Does this happen often, or is the Chinese government just so effective in crushing any opposition and any dissent?
Actually, to be honest, before answering the question, we had like a demonstration in 1990, like some Uyghur guerrillas, the Uyghur fighters took a weapon, want to get independent from from the China, but that was China's crash. So I mean, so violently, for example, and in 1997, the students and the Uyghur businessmen and the Uyghur people demonstrated in Ghoja city of East Turkestan. At that time, also Chinese, they killed them so violently, for example. And in 2009, at that time, that was also a problem. 2009, 25 June, I mean, around some Uyghurs killed by the Chinese workers in the Xinjiang city, inland of China, because the Chinese transferred many Uyghur youth to work for cheap labor, work for inside of China city, and the Uyghurs, they are a little bit discuss something like this, and then at the end the Chinese government, the Chinese workers killed the Uyghurs, and the Uyghur students in East Turkestan, they didn't keep silence and ask demands from the government, must explain, and then ask the government, the killer must be go to court. But instead of the students' demand, the Chinese government, they crashed and killed the Uyghurs, for example. After 2009, to today we have nothing, to be honest. And Uyghur, for example, I will say to you, if you are or me use East Turkistan in Xinjiang, Uyghur Autonomous Region of China today, at least 10 years or 15 years in jail. And if you use, for example, the East Turkestan flag, and if you are captured by Chinese government, you are at least maybe 20 years, maybe 30 years in jail. For example, even 2017, the Chinese government banned the Uyghur language from kindergarten at the university, for example. And even the Chinese government forced the imam to dance. The mosque's imam forced to dance. And today, for example, the Chinese government, like the Chinese people say to them, go to Uyghur house, sleep with them. For example, if a woman, she has a husband, what she can do? For example, a Chinese man in their house. Look, today, I mean, we don't have any power today for any Uyghur just like speak out at door, something like this. You know, the Chinese, you know it, just label them terrorists, separatists, you know it, for example.
Yeah, I mean,
we don't have any right today.
Yeah, I mean, it's a slow ethnic genocide, isn't it? I mean, you know, in 1949, I believe, you know, the Han Chinese only made up 6% of the population in Xinjiang, and now the Han Chinese population is close to 60%. You know, this
Exactly.
is through mass migration, through enforced, you know, anti-religious laws. I mean, they're just completely wiping out the identity of these people.
Yes, exactly. You are right. You are right. Today, if any Uyghur man and woman, for example, stood up and say, this is my right, something like this, the Chinese government immediately labels them terrorists and separatists. You have links with Al-Qaeda, you have links with IS, and just take them in jail, kill them, something like that. That's why people keep silence. They don't have any rights. Because nobody speaks to them, for example. Even the Islamic organization, even like, you know, Amnesty International, years by years, only reporting, publishing report, something like this, without action, lip service, it doesn't help, sir.
Yeah,
it doesn't help, sir.
Yeah, it's terrible. Abdul Ghani, I just want to thank you so much for your time. I really hope you get a chance to get in contact with your family. That's unbelievably distressing, I can imagine.
Thank you very much, sir. I am a little bit today emotional. That's why I cannot talk so clearly. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you.
You've spoken very clearly, and you know, thank you so much for your insights. And I look forward to speaking with you again soon, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thanks for tuning in, and a reminder to please support the Ananas Foundation in their effort to counter all forms of extremism, including Islamophobia, by participating in their crowdfund at www.anacoin.io. And also, please support this podcast by pledging as little as $1 per month at patreon.com. That's patreon.com/Channeler Rage. Thank you very much.